I do it right? Is it Helic? Oh, you got it. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, I'm Mike C. I'm here with Danielle Newsom and Joe Hellick, and we are here at an event together in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, in all of its humidity and causing allergies, but it's a great time here. But anyway, we all represent different roles and responsibilities in the worship and creative departments at our various churches. And I thought it would be a lot of fun, since we're here together, to talk about two things that typically aren't in the same conversation, and that's leadership development and worship teams and worship and creative departments. So I just want to get us started with a topic, and we'll just discuss around it. And the first one is, how are you utilizing leadership development or leadership pipeline in your worship and creative departments, and what are you seeing because of that? So either one of you guys can pick up the question.
Well, we've really just installed the whole pipeline into our worship and our production ministries, and what we're seeing from it is, first of all, just tremendous growth in our ministries. Like, it's amazing how when you're intentional with trying to develop people, God will send you more people. So by putting the pipeline into our ministry and doing the hard work of continuing to pursue it, we're seeing just God send us more people to get involved. And then also it's really cool to see people like discovering a passion and a calling outside of their regular 9-to-5 job. I think we forget sometimes when we're in ministry that a lot of people don't work in a environment that is spiritually encouraging to them. So they're, doing the work grind during the week, and for a lot of people it's hard, it's difficult. So to come into church on the weekends and to be able to use a gifting you have and plug it into the church and also be in a spiritually encouraging environment has been so cool for so many of the people in our ministry. So it's cool to see people discover their gifts, whether they're a student, some people in their 60s, and some of our favorite volunteers are actually our retired people.
Oh my gosh.
I have guys in my production ministry who are retired in their late 60s and 70s who are learning how to run CG, who are learning how to run a camera. So it's so neat to see that this works in all areas and with all generations of people.
And so you're experiencing, though, people who are joining your team and excited about joining those teams, more than just, hey, this is going to be a place where I get to play the thing I love or learn something technically new. You're talking about people discovering their purpose.
Yeah, their purpose, and because Leadership Pipeline is also discipleship, they're being cared for and shepherded. So the fact that people are not only discovering a calling and a purpose, but they're being cared for and shepherded.
So good.
And some people have never really had that before. So for them to belong to a family in a ministry, I think is really cool. We had a guy in our church who is brand new to our team. He's a little bit older guy as well, who served in our production area, and he was new to the church. They didn't know a lot of people, and his wife was put in the hospital with a surgery. Well, he was new to the church. He wouldn't really have a small group yet, but because he was involved in our ministry, the whole production team was able to gather around him, support them, pray for them. So that's just like one small example of how the pipeline works at so many different levels.
Oh my gosh. What are you experiencing, Joe?
Yeah, same of all of that. And also, and I know Danielle would be able to echo this as well. We have had people begin to rise as leaders within our team now who are actually being the ones who are taking care of the people. So I just had recently a guy that's been running camera for a really long time. And honestly, I wasn't sure if he was going to stay on much longer, but because he just retired, I presented the idea to him of becoming a leader, and why don't you help us grow this team rather than serving every week? You could help actually gather people and find purpose now that you're beyond working, because I just felt like, I'm not sure what he's going to do most days, so I just presented this idea to him. And at first he was kind of like, I'm not sure, but once I, gave him a role description, just like we would do in Pipeline, and really started talking with him on a regular basis, he's come alive, and he's begun to gather people and really get a vision, not just to build a team, but to actually care for people and to make sure that their souls are being cared for, and that he was a leader in his job before, and he never saw what he was doing on our team as leadership. And once I started presenting all these ideas to him, he said, this makes so much sense to me. This is what I used to do in my job.
Wow.
And so it was a real lesson to me to make sure we're looking inside our teams for these people that already have these principles, maybe being out in the work world and transferring it into what we're doing in ministry. And I'm telling you, this guy has come alive, and it's so exciting to see what could happen in this small part of our team. So we're definitely, what I feel like right now is we're just activating people, not just to feel that fulfillment in what they do to serve, but actually helping others find fulfillment in how they're serving. So it's kind of just this multiplying effect.
So wait, you're not doing everything? You're not caring for the health of your entire team? That's a reality?
You know, and I would say all of us have felt that before. You have felt that before. We carry so much for our teams, and we always, I know even as recently as last year, just felt the weight of every single person on my team. Are they being cared for? Am I doing enough? Am I texting? Oh, I need to call them. Oh, how are they doing?
Yep.
And this year, because of Pipeline, I have literally felt this weight released off of me because I have structured my team using structure through Pipeline to know that every person has a leader over them, so I'm not having to feel like I'm constantly running from person to person and spreading myself too thin. They're actually being able to be the ones caring for them.
And I actually think that's a great point, because I think the church in days past, it's the staff who ministers to everyone, and that is like so hard to maintain. So what she's saying is that, hey, we're teaching our church that the body ministers to the body, and that's how the church is most effective, and that's how the church was founded. So you're seeing people in the body ministering to the body, and it takes the pressure off the staff, but it also gives all of our teams such fulfillment because they're living out what Jesus really intended them to live out.
That's absolutely right.
Dang.
Yes.
So those are some of the things going great. We posed the whole question of this whole idea with, they're not two things we typically hear together, leadership development and worship.
Right.
And that's for a reason. Sometimes it's hard. We're a bunch of artsy people. We're not traditionally thought of as organized. And so when you talk about structure, people are like, they're not talking about worship. So maybe just one or two. What are some of the challenges that you face or that you've heard teams or different leaders talking about as they implement some of this stuff?
I can definitely start off with probably the most obvious one for a worship team is most musicians that come in really are all about their craft. And so it's a really big mindset shift to take them from, you know, just wanting to play their guitar or expressing their musicality or their creativity, and get them thinking differently. So a lot of them, you know, and I think everybody experiences that. So it's a culture shift. It's a massive culture shift, and that's probably, while all of the parts of Pipeline seem really easy on paper, the culture part is probably the toughest thing to get shifted in people. So it's not an overnight thing. You can have the best plan and strategy in the world, but really it's going to be getting those core people around you to help be culture carriers and then continue, because it just takes time. And I think we have to remember that Leadership Pipeline, when we begin to install this into our teams, it is a marathon, and we can't grow discouraged, because I know I have several times grown discouraged, but we just keep at it one step. I say this to especially my leaders, one step at a time. You've got to celebrate every win along the way, because eventually when you look back a year, 2 years, you'll go, oh my gosh, look how far we've come. But I'd say shifting the mindsets of people from just coming in and playing, whatever, to look out and begin to look for other people that you can raise up as well. That's a big shift for a lot of people.
I would say the thing I'm learning and that my team is learning is that the work of the ministry is hard and very time consuming, and unless you stop and put time in your calendar for developing leadership development, it won't happen. So the word my team keeps using this year as we look at our objectives is intentional. This is not something that happens organically mostly, it's really intentional time on your calendar. It's intentional time with people. It's intentional planning time. It does take a fair amount of planning, which might kill some creatives, but I think like McAvoy says, choosing which pain you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're in a church that's growing, or even if you're in a church that just needs more people, I can pick the pain of just burning out the same people every week because I'm not developing anyone, or I can pick the pain of putting some time in my schedule to actually plan to bring some people along. And I think that has been the most helpful thing, is just realizing, gosh, you got to be so intentional with that.
That's amazing. You said something in there that the mind of the creative is not thinking about some of those intentional things, but the truth is that the mind is creative.
Yes.
It's retraining that mind to be creative about something that is not just creative about how they interpret guitar or singing or leading. Their brain's creative. So if we tap some of that creative brain to influence some of the other areas of like the church landscape, it's like it's amazing. All right, we have a couple minutes, maybe 60 seconds each. What's one tip? What's one takeaway a worship leader, a senior pastor, somebody serving in a creative team anywhere could watch this video, be encouraged? One tip.
Just one?
I would say don't give up. You're going to have times where you question if it's working. It is working. Celebrate the wins with your team. Every time I feel discouraged, like it might not be working, or it's not as fast as I want it to be, when I sit down with my team and say, hey, let's celebrate our leadership development wins together, then I'm encouraged. This is working. I just don't see it every day, but it really is working. So don't give up. Keep pursuing it.
That's so good.
I think all of that, and believe it or not, there are people out there that think this way. We do. Yeah. And so don't do this alone.
That's good.
Because it's really, really tough. It gets tough when you're doing this and you're trying to figure a lot of things out. And I would say we all three have done things differently, but the principles all remain the same. The methods have just been different in the way that we've expressed it. So you've got us, and there are other people. I try to reach out at least maybe twice a year to a worship pastor that's beyond me, especially in a larger church, and pick their brain. So don't go alone on this journey, because you can be encouraged by other people that have gone before you and get tons of great ideas. Why not? And why not build relationship along the way? That's really important when we're going through what we are, to have other people in our worlds that understand and have that unique worship leadership development mix. There are people out there. We have found each other through Leadership Pipeline, and there are people out there that you can reach out to. So do that. Don't go alone.
That's so good. I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to piggyback once more and sound smarter than I really am.
Yeah, come on.
I feel what you're talking about is celebrate the wins. This is a whole new culture.
Yes.
So it's whole new wins. So that loop of giving feedback to people on your team is a lot different than, hey, you nailed that Lincoln Brewster guitar solo this weekend. Rewind 15 years ago. It's, hey, I saw you pouring into that next guitarist. It's a new win. We got to think about it differently, and it'll start to change that landscape of our teams. So thank you guys.
Honestly,
this was a lot of fun, and we had a breeze the whole time. So thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
All right, see you guys.